Krishna Padan Sahaganar Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushrute Pranamami Hari Priye Vanjakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shashwin, for the wonderful Manglacharan. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody who have joined and are about to join this group. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 11. And the text for today is text 7, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, how would you like us to proceed?
Someone can read the verse, and I'm happy to sort of follow your lead, or I'm happy to lead, whichever would you prefer.
Would anybody like to read the verse? Are Govind Prabhu, would you like to read the verse?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. We are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 11. And the text for today is text 7.
Just a minute, Mataji. I've just joined. I'm just opening.
Okay. Shashwin can read the verse and then you can do the word to word.
Okay.
Shashwin, would you like to read the verse?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bhavayana svam bhava vishva bhavana tvam neva mattata suhrit pati pita tvam sarvaguru brahman cha daivatam yasyānuvritya kritino babhuvima.
Thank you very much, Ashwin, for the wonderful recital. I can read the word to word. Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I can read.
Okay. Yes, Prabhuji.
Bhavaya for welfare.
Bhavaya for welfare.
Na for us.
Na for us.
Tvam, your leadership.
Tvam, your lordship.
Your lordship. Sorry. Bhava, just become.
Bhava, just become.
Vishwa Bhavana.
Vishwa Bhavana.
The creator of the universe.
The creator of the universe.
Tvam.
Tvam.
Your lordship.
Your lordship.
Eva, certainly.
Eva, certainly.
Mata, mother.
Mata, mother.
Atha, also.
Also.
Suhrit, well-wisher.
Shrut, well-wisher.
Pati, husband.
Pati, husband.
Pita, father.
Pita, Father.
Tvam, your lordship.
Twam, your
Lordship.
Satguru, spiritual master.
Sadguru, spiritual
Satguru,
master.
spiritual master.
Na, our.
Na,
Na,
our
Paramam, the supreme.
Paramam, the Supreme.
Supreme.
Cha and
Cha, and
Daivatam, worshipable deity.
Daivatam, worshipful deity.
Yasya, whose.
Yasya, whose
Anuvritya, following in the footsteps.
Anuvrita, following in the footsteps.
Kritina, successful.
Kritina, successful.
Bhubuvima, we have become. Bhabuvima,
Bhavima, we have become.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Arya Govind Prabhu. Prashanatma Prabhuji, would you like to read just the translation, Prabhuji?
Hare
So that-
Krishna. Then must pronounce.
Hare Krishna.
Then must pronounce to all the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna, Kamal, Panchal, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisance. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
O Creator of the universe, you are our Mother, Well-Wisher, Lord, Father, Spiritual Master, and Worshipable Deity. By following in your footsteps, we have become successful in every respect. We pray, therefore, that you continue to bless us with your mercy.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Would anybody like to read the purport?
Hare Krishna, can I read Mataji?
Yes, ma'am.
The all-good personality of Godhead, being the creator of the universe, also plans for the good of all good living beings. The good living beings are advised by the Lord to follow his good advice, and by doing so, they will become successful in all spheres of life. There is no need to worship any deity but the Lord. The Lord is all powerful, and if he is satisfied by our obedience unto his lotus feet, he is competent to bestow upon us all kinds of blessings for the successful execution of both our material and spiritual lives. For attaining spiritual existence, the human form is a chance for all to understand our eternal relation with God. Our relation with him is eternal. It can neither be broken nor vanquished. It may be forgotten for the time being, but it can be revived also by the grace of the Lord, if we follow his injunctions, which are revealed in the scriptures of all times and place. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for volunteering to read. Prabhuji, we have read the text and the purport, and we now hand over to you. Canto 1, Chapter 11, Text 7. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you, Pramila Mataji. Thank you, Shashwin Prabhu, and thank you, Arya Govinda Prabhu, also for your wonderful recitations and readings. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Bhashtavutale, Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharine, Nirvishesha Shanivari, Pashtatta Deshatarine. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today to discuss the Srimad Bhagavatam. And at this point, we'll discuss what is happening is Krishna is entering into Dwarka as entitled by the chapter, and the citizens of Dwarka are worshipping him and glorifying Krishna. And so that just to repeat the verse, they've said, Bhavaya Nastam Bhava Visha Bhavana, Tom Eva Matata Surya Pati Pita, Tom Sadguru Na Paramam Jade Vatam, Yashanavrita Kritino Babu Vima. O Creator of the universe, you are our mother, well-wisher, Lord, Father, spiritual master, and worshipful deity. So Krishna, they're saying Krishna is fulfilling so many different roles for them. By following in your footsteps, we have become successful in every respect. We pray, therefore, that you continue to bless us with your mercy. So lots of nice themes in here and within the purport. So upon reading this verse and kind of having a think about what, trying to be open about what this verse is trying to say, I was thinking how that the wonderful citizens of Dwarka are seeing Krishna in so many regards, and within the purport, Pramila Mataji nicely read and used a couple of times. Krishna is described as all good, not just good, but all good, and he's also described as not just powerful, but all powerful. So, and it's described in the Isha Upanishad that Krishna is present everywhere, and his potency is everywhere. Now, there's a specific word which is used, which is actually a Greek word to describe all. Does anyone know what that word is? So it's described that this word is omni. So O-M-N-I. So Krishna is described in the Isha Upanishad, it translating as omnipotent and omnipresent. So he's everywhere. So this is bearing that in mind, and I tend to work well with acronyms. This is our acronym for today, Omni. So remember this. And how can we see Krishna everywhere? Omni. How can we see him in an omni way? O-M-N-I. So with Krishna, he is not like, often it's asked, it's given the example that if Krishna, it really takes the prasadam off the plate, then why is it that when the prasadam is offered in front of him, it's still there? We can still see it afterwards. That's because Krishna can eat with his eyes, and he can do, all his senses can do the things of the other senses. But the thing with us is our senses are limited. That's one of the restraints of being a human. One of the four defects is that humans have imperfect senses. However, we do have something which is actually quite different, is that we cannot see Krishna with our eyes. So we can't actually see Krishna with our eyes, but the way we see Krishna is we hear about him, and through that we're able to develop, hearing about Krishna, we're able to develop the vision to see him. And so how do we develop this vision? And this leads me to my first word, which in Omni, the first letter of Omni is O. O stands for being open. So being open. So what do I mean by being open? I think a beautiful example of this, and I've referred to this pastime before, is in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a wonderful section where Krishna is talking with an amazing devotee who, there's so many things you could say about this devotee. He's actually Krishna's cousin, and he looks very much like Krishna also. So much so that some inhabitants of Vrindavan actually mistake him for Krishna. His name is Uddhav or Uddhava. And so Krishna is discussing with his cousin, and he's explaining a pastime to him, which is actually a conversation between one of Krishna's forefathers, King Yadu, Maharaj Yadu. so one of the forefathers of the Yadu dynasty. And King Yadu actually comes across a very special personality known as the Avadut, or sometimes he's referred to as the Avanti Brahmana. And the Avadut, so Avadut actually means one who gives up all possessions, all worldly responsibilities, and one who has no home. And this Avadut is actually quite young as well, but he's very, very spiritually advanced, very learned. And this, in a discussion King Yadu has with the Avadut actually describes 24 gurus that he comes across. But the amazing thing about the 24 gurus that he comes across is that they're not gurus that you and I would think of. So sometimes we think, oh, we have to listen to our Shiksha guru, and we have to listen to so we have to listen to Prabhupada, senior devotees, we have to listen to our Diksha guru, and from then we can receive instructions. But actually, this pastime demonstrates that if we're open, we can actually be receiving some kind of guidance from Krishna everywhere, because the Avaduts, 24 gurus are the earth. I'm checking here because the air, the sky, water, fire, and so forth, many, many things. He also observes different people who he doesn't even know, and he's able to learn things from them in pertaining to knowledge of the absolute. He observes a prostitute called Pingala. He even observes an arrow maker. So just an example, he observes an arrow maker who's so absorbed in his making of arrows that the king of that region passes by with a massive marching band and so forth, and the arrow maker just is so absorbed in his making of the arrow that he does not even realize that the king and his accompaniments are there. And the Avadut says, from this I learned in such a way that a true yogi is so absorbed in his path of knowledge of gaining the knowledge of the absolute, that he's undeterred by what's happening around him. So this is the kind of fixation we're trying to get from practice of Krishna consciousness, that we become so absorbed that we become undeterred from the path by external obstacles. There's many, many different things. He learns something from fire. He learns that fire does not take on the qualities of that which it ingests. So we don't take on the bad qualities, and we're subjected to so many external things that come our way. But by observing fire, is able to say that we shouldn't take on the qualities of the bad things. So in this way, we need to learn to be open, because Krishna is actually sending us messages constantly. You know, on one occasion, I remember we were going through a bit of a rough time, and I was feeling kind of disturbed through a difficult situation I was facing, and we went out to buy some things for our home in like a Home Depot store, and a woman who we'd never met before came up to my wife and I, and was so kind. And she wasn't a devotee or anything, but she could say, I can tell you're going through a very rough time. I just want to let you know that, you know, I know things will be rough right now, but things will be okay. And honestly, I really felt that like this was Krishna speaking to us, telling us that like, just hang in there, things will be okay. And some people may say, no, you know, this person wasn't a devotee, but then I would, you know, I would say that look at the Avaduts, and fire is not a devotee, a bee is not a devotee, a python is not a devotee, or maybe they are. But what all these living entities, what all these things have in common is they either come from Krishna, because Krishna is what? Omnipresent, omnipotent, or Krishna is present in the heart of all living entities as Paramatma. So if we're able to be a little open, then we can actually see that Krishna is speaking to us through everyone and everything. And we only have to see the message. And sometimes we think, Krishna, why are you doing this to me? Or Krishna, guide me, please. And he is actually guiding us, but we're just not open enough to see his messages. I'd like to share something that happened to me yesterday, actually, which was I found quite amazing. So I went to meet my brother, my younger brother. He's not practicing Krishna consciousness, so to speak, but he's a very conscious, intelligent young man, and I'm very proud of him. Actually, he's a very he's got many good qualities, my younger brother. And so I thought we would have a catch up, see how his work is doing, and kind of as you do when you meet family members and to my great surprise, he started talking about. He said, some of you may be familiar. I don't watch so many of these films these days, but may be familiar with quite popular now is Marvel films. So, from based on comic books. And I can't remember some of the characters. I think they're called the Avengers and things like that. And one of the themes of these films is they explore different universes. And now my brother said, you know what's interesting? He said, actually, did you know, Kamal, that this is actually taken from Hindu scriptures? I said, oh, really? And then he said, yeah, did you know actually that this is based on, because on one occasion, he said, it's mentioned in the scriptures that Lord Brahma goes to visit Krishna in Dwarka and asks for an audience with Krishna. And my brother's telling me this. And he's saying, so, and I said, yeah, please go on. And he said, yeah, so Brahma goes and says to the gods, please, I want an audience with Krishna. Tell him Brahma is here. The gods come back and say, Krishna said, which Brahma? And Brahma, being very, very proud and being the most intelligent being in the universe, is shocked and saying, what do you mean by this? At which point he's brought in and he can see many different Brahmas from lots of different universes. Some Brahmas have 10 heads, some have 20, some have hundreds, and like this. And suddenly Brahma becomes very, very humbled and realizes that he's no one special. And Krishna is actually there. He pays his obeisances to Krishna. And it was my brother telling me this pastime. So I went there to just check in on my brother and see how he's doing. And he was actually giving me Krishna Katha. And this pastime is wonderfully narrated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as well. Something I didn't expect. And I was very grateful to hear from him. And I just thought that shows, sometimes we think we sometimes put people into categories of devotee, non-devotee, but here it is, my brother, he doesn't chant or anything like that, but here he is, he's telling me a wonderful pastime about Lord Brahma and Krishna. And another nice example of a couple of examples about being open, and it is that once Srila Prabhupada, he throughout his life, well, actually towards the end, and when he was preaching and he came to the West, there's a time where he was very, very sick. And this was a time close to Christmas, and it was late at night, I believe. And the devotees desperately needed a doctor, but couldn't find one. And finally, they found a personality who could help, but he was actually a retired doctor, so he wasn't even practicing. And he was also drunk at the time. And so the devotees were looking at him and think, how could this person help Prabhupada? What is Prabhupada going to gain from this person? But he came to see, he had a consultation with Srila Prabhupada, whose health was declining. And he left and they asked him, so what did you, or what should we do? What should we do to improve our guru's health? He said, the guy, he was drunk, and he said, don't worry about it. He said, the old man, he just meditates too much. He just needs to go for a walk every day. That's it. The old man just sits down too much. And the devotees are thinking, this guy, he doesn't know what he's on about. He's drunk, he's retired, he's a doctor. But Prabhupada, what did he do? And what's he famous for now? His morning walks. Every morning he would take a walk with his disciples after hearing that. So Prabhupada was open enough to hear from this personality and see that actually in some instances, even though it may not come from the source we think it is, this is actually ultimately coming from Krishna saying, you know, you need to do this, you need to take action. And if we can become in tune with ourselves and our own intuition and be aligned, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we can be aligned, to receptive. So often, I heard a lovely lecture on by my Guru Maharaj about japa. And often in Krishna consciousness, we think we're trying to be an achiever. We're trying to achieve. But actually, we need to not try and achieve. It's not through our own efforts, really, we can achieve. We have to just put ourselves in a position to receive. And in our movement, one person who holds many, many retreats on chanting of the holy names is His Holiness Satchidananda Swami. He's got so much taste for kirtan and the holy name and chanting. And he's written several books on chanting also, which I'd recommend. His latest one is called The Living Name. And my Guru Maharaj said, watch His Holiness Satchidananda Swami chant. And you tell me, do you think he's an achiever or a receiver? So it's important to be in this mood of being open and being receptive to the mercy, or we'll miss it. And finally, be open to criticism. And this one is, and remember that not everyone is going to like us. And this pastime actually really, I heard this recently from a speaker class that I attended, and it really hit me, because sometimes I can think that I must be liked by everyone, and if I'm not, I'm doing something wrong, or or if I get criticized, then it means that I can take it in the wrong way. So I'm sure you've all heard this pastime. Lord Ramachandra, after rescuing Sita Devi, Lord Ramachandra is such an amazing king that he would often go disguised in his kingdom, so no one could recognize him, and he just wanted to be amongst the residents and hear what they had to say, what they were discussing, and keep up to date with current matters. So one occasion, in disguise, he comes across a dhobi. Dhobi is someone who's washes clothes. And this dhobi, his wife, has run off with another man. And then the wife has returned to him. And the wife has returned to him, and he won't accept her. And what does he say? He says, I'm not going to accept you. I'm not a lowly person like Lord Ramachandra, who accepts a woman after she's been with another man. I'm not like Lord Ramachandra, and he's criticizing Lord Ram. Now, just think about this for a second. Lord Ram is the supreme personality of Godhead. He's God. He's perfect. None of us are perfect, but he is perfect. So merciful, so kind, not just so kind, all merciful, a wonderful example of a personality, as well as all powerful. And he's the king, and he's just even on a material level, he's the king, and he's being criticized by a person who washes clothes in a derogatory manner. Yet he takes that. So just think about that for a second. It really hit me this past time, hearing it again, thinking, if even God can be criticized by people, what chance do we have? We're going to get criticized no matter what we do. So we have to be open to take that. Maybe sometimes it's said that don't let praise take praise and take it to your heart, but don't let it go to your head. And take criticism, assimilate it in your head, but don't let it go to your heart. So I thought that was just a wonderful example of how Lord Ramachandra's humility. And in the purport, it's actually said that devotees are actually described as being not as godlike. So I'm just reading this part of so they want to follow in the devotees are actually want to follow in the footsteps. By following in your footsteps, we become successful in every respect. So to become godlike, we often think godlike is we in a big position, but actually to be godlike, look at Lord Ramachandra, such a position he takes, very lowly, very humble he takes, not some big position, not some all, even though he is all knowing, he doesn't take that position. He takes a position of humility. So this is being open. So the next word in omni or all is M. The next letter is M. So M, it means mindful. And we've talked about this many, many times, that Krishna consciousness is a moment-to-moment practice. And I remember on one occasion, His Holiness Shivram Maharaj was observing a brahmachari. And in Mayapur, if those of you have been to Mayapur, they have lots of wonderful prasadam. They have different halls where you can get different types of prasadam. And there's one brahmachari, and he'd piled up his plate. And I've seen some of those brahmacharis, and they can eat so much prasadam. And it was literally like a little mountain of prasad he had on his plate. And I was told that Shivram Maharaj approached him and said, "Are you eating that prasad, or is that prasad eating you?" And those of you who've heard from Shivram Maharaj, he's very amazing devotee, very instructive. I've been chastised by him once. But what he was alluding to was that when we don't just eat prasadam. What's the word we use? We honor it. So we recite a prayer, and we're recognizing that this is actually this is actually the Lord's mercy. These are the Lord's remnants, and this is Krishna prasadam. And so by consuming this mindfully, there's three things actually which will affect the effect of prasadam, which is the consciousness of which it's prepared, the person preparing, the consciousness of which it's is cooked and then and offered, and then the consciousness of the person consuming said prasadam. So in this way, I thought it was a nice example that actually Krishna consciousness means to be mindful in every single interaction that we ever do, whether it's taking prasadam, whether it's speaking to others, whether it's doing our daily activities, what to speak of, chanting, reading, discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, or associating with devotees. And something often I'm guilty of is doing things mindlessly. Oh, I'm feeling quite hungry now. Say the prayers very quickly and then I can eat. Or, it's almost time for me to start work. I still have a couple of rounds left to chant. Let me just quickly chant, like very mindlessly chanting. And then what's the point? What is the value in this kind of practice? And there's a nice pastime I heard recently in the lecture of Srila Prabhupada where so devotees would be sat in front of Prabhupada for a Bhagavatam lecture, and some of the devotees, they didn't know, obviously maybe for many of us it may be a given, but they didn't know the etiquette that one shouldn't put the Bhagavatam on the floor because this is disrespectful. And so Srila Prabhupada could see some devotees were doing this, and he said, "No, you're not to you're not to put the Bhagavatam on the floor." So one devotee, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he had a amazing idea. He said, "Oh, you know what I'll do is as a gift, I will produce a cloth for Prabhupada to put his Bhagavatam on." And so he approached the devotees who were making the clothes for the deities, and he had a wonderful, amazing cloth made to cover the Bhagavatam, and he was going to present this to Srila Prabhupada. And he was so excited, and he was thinking that, I will present this to Prabhupada, he'll be so pleased with me, and everyone will say Jai Jai, and I'll be glorified, and I can't wait for this. And so he took this cloth, he had his darshan with Srila Prabhupada, and he said, "Srila Prabhupada, I've got a gift for you. I've got this cloth, because you said we shouldn't keep your our Bhagavatam on the floor." What did Srila Prabhupada do to him? He said, "I don't keep my Bhagavatam on the floor. You keep your Bhagavatam on the floor." And he just smashed him like this and was completely disregarding of his gift, at which point the devotee was devastated. But then the devotee realized that actually he was mindful that he was presenting this to Srila Prabhupada because he wanted to be praised, and it was actually an act of pride, and Srila Prabhupada immediately could see this, so he smashed him and made him humble. At which point, then the devotee realized, Srila Prabhupada is teaching me humility, to be mindful of why I'm doing my actions. We talk often about our intention. So instead, he said, he presented Prabhupada, said, Prabhupada, I've also got you another gift. Please, in a humble mood, he presented him with some mangoes. And Srila Prabhupada said, mangoes, this is the best gift. And Srila Prabhupada's mood completely changed because he could see that this devotee had now become humble. So this is the second point, really, of Omni, is to be mindful in all our actions and understand why we're doing certain things. Are we doing it to prove something? Are we doing it to inflate our pride? And this happens often even in Krishna consciousness. That actually Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said that if a devotee makes a plan to be honored, so he makes some kind of orchestrate some plan to be in a position so that people will say Jai Jai, Kartika Mataji ki Jai, or Prasad Mata Prabhu ki Jai, and we're making those plans to be honored. He said this is a very evil plan. This is a very evil plan. So this is something to be mindful of. That are we looking to put ourselves in a position? Are we looking to learn lots of things about Krishna to get closer to Krishna? Are we looking to learn lots of things so people will say, Kamal Prabhu ki Jai, oh, he's so knowledgeable, look at him, oh, my obeisances to you, Prabhu, he's so knowledgeable. And it's completely the wrong reason. This is an evil plan. And this is going to take us away from actually Krishna, from Krishna rather than closer to him. The second, the third letter in Omni is M, N. So we've talked about being open. We talked about the pastime of the Avadut Brahmana, how he's so open, how even my brother, I was getting Krishna Katha from my brother, Srila Prabhupada and the doctor, Lord Ramachandra. And then the next point was mindful. Now nurture, N stands for nurture. So I read a wonderful analogy in a psychology book, actually, where this doctor gives an example of, for a person to flourish, there needs to be the right conditions, just like you're familiar with an oak tree. They're quite prominent in Europe. And the oak tree comes from a special seed known as an acorn. Now, an oak tree are huge. They grow to be many, many feet high, very thick, sturdy, and it's actually very expensive wood. So if someone has oak doors in their house, you know that they were very expensive. And but in order for an acorn to become an oak tree, that seed must have a very, very good conditions. So the doctor explains, it must have not too much water, but the right amount of water. The soil must be fertile. It mustn't be close to too many other seedlings, because if they're too close together, then there won't be enough room for the roots to spread and for the tree to grow. And like this, in the same way, for our bhakti to flourish, devotee must have the right conditions. And in fact, it is said in the Shastra that a devotee actually must water their seed of devotion. Does anyone know what the seed of devotion is called? Can anyone say what this is?
Bhakti Lata Beach.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Yes, so we all have a seed, the Bhakti Lata Beach. And this Bhakti Lata Beach is said actually, the Bhakti Lata Beach is planted by the spiritual master. So by receiving the instructions of the spiritual master, this Bhakti Lata Beach is implanted. And then to nurture this Bhakti Lata Beach, we must continue to follow the instructions of the Guru. And this can be difficult. So we need to nurture this seed. There's many, many different ways through our practice of Krishna consciousness, through the following the instructions of the acharyas, through living our life, which is in accordance with the Shastras, even if it's difficult. And we've talked a little bit about in the last session how the difference between harshness and heaviness is the missing ingredient is compassion. But one cannot give what one does not have. So you have to give compassion to yourself first before you can give it to others. And I was told, or I've heard, that the biggest act of compassion one can give to oneself is to chant the holy names of the Lord attentively, not thinking of other things, but really trying hard to at least chant Namabas, trying, sincerely endeavoring not to chant whilst thinking of other things and offensively. And this is an act of compassion. So there's many times where we don't feel like chanting, or we are chanting, but we're not putting so much effort into it because our mind is disturbed, or we're thinking there's something to get out of the way. And this is very much a message for myself, but the biggest act of self-care and compassion we can give to ourselves is to chant in this moment, because this will feed into everything that we do, this compassion. And this will be the difference whether our practice will become harsh and will become hard-hearted, or whether we'll become more open, more compassionate, and actually then we'll be able to hear the words of the acharyas, which are heavy and will anchor us like a boat. A large ship has an anchor which keeps it from sailing away, and this will anchor us. These heavy words will be able to actually receive them properly. They'll anchor us and stopped us being swept away by the waves of the material nature. So yeah, so we talked about Omni, O, open, M, mindful, and make sure we're nurturing, make sure we're receiving the seed of devotion, the Bhakti Lata Beach, but nurturing it by chanting attentively and trying our best to live our life in accordance with the instructions of the spiritual master, the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. And the final point, I, is be intelligent. So practice intelligently. So I've said this before, but in the very first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, in the very first text, in the very first purport, Srila Prabhupada uses the word, there it says that one should read Bhagavad Gita, not just scrutinizingly, very scrutinizingly. So one should read the Shastras, looking at it from different points of angle, using our intelligence, and apply this intelligence also to our lives. So understand that Krishna consciousness isn't a black and white process. It's not one size that fits all. And within these rules and regulations, can we make some adjustment? I'd like to give a nice Prabhupada Leela again, which kind of illustrates how we can use our intelligence. One talk that I attended very recently by His Grace Kartik Chandra Prabhu was on, and so key to our advancement or lack of advancement, one very important aspect is our relationships with devotees, our relationships with Vaishnavas. And sometimes we need to keep certain devotees at arm's length. We need to just interact with them appropriately, and it's mentioned in that actually one should treat different levels of, so one should have different types of devotees. One should have ones who are junior, ones who are peers, and ones who are senior. One should treat different devotees accordingly, according to where they are in their practice. So the Uttama Adhikari, the Madhyama Adhikari, the Kanishta Adhikari, and externally at least, though internally we respect all of them. And that he gave this nice pastime of Srila Prabhupada, where he was in India with one of his disciples. And as we know, Srila Prabhupada, he was writing the Srimad Bhagavatam, and there were some monkeys on the roof. So those of you who've been to Vrindavan will know very much about the monkeys and how they can be cause quite a nuisance. And they were causing a lot of noise, a lot of damal, as they would say, on the roof. And so Srila Prabhupada asked one of his disciples, hey, can you do something about that? The monkeys, they're causing some disturbance. So this disciple went up and he started yelling at the monkeys to get rid of them. And the monkeys, they didn't do anything. And so then the disciple went down and he said, Srila Prabhupada, the monkeys haven't gone. And so Prabhupada said, no, do something. So then the disciple thought, maybe I'll go to the ground, I'll get some bananas, that will entice the monkeys, and then, then they'll leave. So what did the monkeys do? They came down, they ate the bananas, then they went back up to the roof and carried on making noise. So then the disciple became very, very agitated, thinking, oh no, what can I do? So he said, okay, he got a stick. He went inside. He said, I must get rid of the monkeys. So he got a stick and he starts hitting the monkeys. And what did the monkeys do? Then they jumped on him and started making any more noise and attacking him. And then, he managed to fight them off. And again, the monkeys are creating even more noise now on the roof. And he goes to Srila Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, I can't get rid of the monkeys. So Srila Prabhupada said, sit there with a stick, but don't do anything. Just every now and again, tap the stick. That's it. And make sure someone is sat on the roof with a stick and just tap it. And like this, they followed his instructions and the monkeys left. So I thought, and this was actually very instructive as well, because there are certain types of people in our life, and may even be devotees themselves, where we need to keep a little bit of a distance. If we try to fight with them, maybe people, maybe other devotees, and we know they're never going to change. And in fact, we'll become more agitated and be embroiled in a fight, which we can never win. Just like the devotee there, he tried to fight them and he made things worse. Sometimes these types of people will show them some kindness, and all they'll do is take advantage of that kindness. So what we need to do is just keep the stick there and keep them at arm's length. Threaten, don't do anything, but just keep these respectfully, keep these boundaries. And in this way, use our intelligence. There's an old English saying, which is, you should never argue with an idiot because it's like wrestling with a pig. The pig, you will get dirty and the pig likes it because the pig's like rolling around in the mud. So it's a lose-lose situation for you, but the pig will benefit. So in the same way that some people will never change, and we need to use our intelligence like this. And this applies to all areas of our Krishna consciousness, where it's not necessarily, we don't take just one statement of Srila Prabhupada and apply it. And this is what's known as ISKCON hermeneutics. So it's important that we have a broad understanding of Srila Prabhupada's teachings and look at every single thing Srila Prabhupada said in relation to a particular topic or situation that we're facing, so that we don't just make a black and white kind of judgment based on something to suit our agenda, and instead we use our intelligence in this way. So in conclusion, in order to realize that Krishna is, and develop the eyes to see Krishna and realize that he's omnipotent, omnipresent, and he's very much present in our day-to-day lives. We need to be open, we need to be mindful, we need to nurture that Bhakti Lata Beach, the seed of devotion within us. And we need to practice intelligently, because it was Einstein who said that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. So it's important that we're continually using our intelligence to adjust our Krishna consciousness so that we're continually advancing our consciousness. So those are a few thoughts, reflections on this beautiful section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Please forgive me for any mistakes that I've made, and I'd welcome any corrections, any comments, or any questions at this time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for today's session. It had lots of messages. I really liked the acronym OMNI. and it was like as if it was meant for me. I'd like to share something that happened to me today. So I was talking to my house help, and I was counseling her son, and I was telling him, so we pay for your fees, we pay for your electricity, we have given you housing, we give you food, we've taken care of all your needs. All you have to do is study. And immediately I said that, I started laughing at myself, because that's what Krishna has done. He's given us everything. All he needs us to do is chant. And I'm falling back on that. So, I mean, I would have said this 100 times before to him, and I had never realized it. But I think this being open, then Krishna does talk to you and say, hey, I'm doing the same to you. Who are you to tell this boy, why are you preaching when you're not even practicing what I'm asking you to do? So thank you very much, Prabhuji. I mean, even mindfulness. I mean, I do that all the time, finish everything fast without offering the prasad fast so that I can have it fast and run back. And very important words of nurturing and looking at things intelligence. Thank you for this excellent class. Are there any questions or comments by anybody else on the group? Any other devotee? Yes, are you going, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much for a wonderful class. I was just remembering, we were saying, Avadut, he was remembering different objects and then remembering how to connect it to Krishna. Heard a story from Amarendra Prabhu about Srila Prabhupada. When he was walking on the shore, there was a small ship pulling the big ship. Then he asked the devotees, do you know what it is? Then the devotees said, why is it being pulled? So the devotees started to giving different reasons. But Prabhupada saw a Krishna conscious reason that the engine is switched off. The main ship's engine is switched off. So he compared it to that our Krishna conscious switch is switched off. That's why the big all powerful soul is carried by Maya. So he compared that small ship carrying the big ship to Maya carrying the soul. So Prabhupada could see in each and every in everything that Krishna is present, and you can take examples of how to improve. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful example. Thank you so much for sharing, Arya Govinda Prabhu. And yeah, another example, like often, we can be kind of quite, I know I can speak for myself, often if something's not directly Krishna conscious, like, the deity chanting, not spoken from Shastra, the devotee, not spoken by a devotee, we think, oh, that's not Krishna conscious. Yeah, look at Srila Prabhupada. He's able to develop that vision where Krishna is everywhere. He's omnipresent, omnipotent. But he's also not just, we could say, oh, Srila Prabhupada, he's so elevated. He's a pure devotee. I can't do that. It's like, no, it's a practice. It's a constant practice that we can actually do that if we are just open to be able to see it. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions? If there are no more questions or comments, can I request Krishnatma Prabhuji, is it possible for you to end this session? Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Okay, Prabhuji might have challenges with his internet. Hare Govind Prabhu, since your mic is on, if you can finally end the session. Really.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for giving this acronym and then connected. Omni is also okay. We deal with in agriculture, so omni is a word which we know. so I can relate to that word very much in a day-to-day life. But still, I will remember this acronym and will try and imbibe whatever you told us about each letter. Very nice, Prabhuji. O is for openness, and then M is for mindfulness, and then N is for nurturing, and then I is intelligence. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful, takeaway from this class. I would like to thank you by asking the devotees to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once in glorification of His Grace Panchal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Pancha kalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhu vevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare
His Grace
Krishna.
Prabhu ki
Jai.
Hare Bol.
Hare Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.